Deficit deadlifts might be the dumbest thing you can do for your spine. I'm amazed at how many people blow out their back doing deadlifts from a deficit and don't ever appreciate why. It makes absolutely no sense. In the pictures here, I'm doing it from a 6-inch deadlift deficit. I've actually had people that have come in and pulled from this. And what's wild about this, I'm barefoot, okay, and the bar is still touching the top of my foot. I literally can't even get the bar to the start position because it's elevated so much. I guess I'm elevated so much. That's a wild thing, because if you can't get the bar to the starting position, you have no shot of getting into a good position. I can't pull it back up to get close to my shins. So you can see from the side posture, obviously, that I'm pretty well rounded over. It makes it very tough for me to use that chest up posture to really make sure that I'm not rounding over. So the only place to go from here is the hips to shoot up and the bar to get out in front to make this purely a lower back exercise. Why do people want to pull from a deficit? I think because they claim that it's going to help them if they miss off the floor. If there are people that can't get the bar moving, they say it's going to improve their mobility. I would argue that this is good mobility. It gets you better at hanging out in lumbar flexion. And I think there's also people that want to just be a masochist and do the hardest exercises possible, even if they know that they may lead to injuries. So most people don't have adequate mobility to do a good conventional deadlift with good technique, so they certainly won't be able to do it from a deeper setup. It's just a silly exercise. A deadlift with greater than 90 degrees of hip and knee flexion is called a squat, and that's what you would need to do to get down into a good position at the bottom of this deadlift. You'll see that my hips are still above my knees, and I've got pretty good mobility to get down to that bottom position, but I can't make it happen from this position. You're always going to wind up with bloody shins, and you're going to see a lot of bad backs as a result. So I guess the question is, how can we make it dumber? Do a snatch grip deadlift from a deficit even and make it even worse. So bring your hands out even wider. So take a moronic exercise and then take it to the absolute extreme. Look where I have to go in that side posture to even get into the starting position. Again, the bar's touching my toe, or the top of my feet here. I can't get into a good position to be successful. Even if I can establish a little bit more of a pack neck posture and use all of the mobility I've got to get down there, it's just not a position that allows us to squat nice and deep, or I should say deadlift nice and deep. So I guess the question becomes, what do we do instead? A couple options. First off, I think you can just do speed pulls from the floor. Work at a lower percentage and just focus on good bar speed off the floor. That's always helped me with my start. I know a lot of people that have done really well with it. If you do insist on pulling from a deficit, as the picture showed here, you can use some accommodating resistance. So in other words, by throwing those chains on, I've got two 15-pound changes on each side of this one, so I've got an additional 60 pounds at the top and less weight at the bottom. At least that way the loading is a little bit less in that position where you're the most vulnerable. You can use bands, chains, weight releasers, whatever you want. And then more importantly, keep the deficit to a minimum. This is a 1.5-inch deficit I've set up on, and if you compare this to the sumo the snatch grip deadlift from the previous slide, you can see that the logo on my shirt is a much better position. I'm in more of a neutral spine. I can pack the neck better. I can work with that much better. Another option that you can try out is, if you are going to pull from a deficit, beyond just taking the height of the deficit down, you can also pull the trap bar too, because it allows you to get your hands to a little bit of a better position, and for lack of a better term, it is a little bit more of a squat than a deadlift in that setup. So it could be a way to make it work, but certainly I think pulling with anything over 3 inches is absolutely silly, and it's the reason why so many people to go back to that analogy, are they're trying out calculus when they don't even have algebra mastered.